Okay, so we're taking off the air strut on the passenger side of a 2007 W211 or E550 in this case. So the first thing we're going to do is loosen this nut here. This is 16. I'm going to leave the nut loosely on there. Take a good heavy hammer. Just give this a couple of whacks here. Next, we're going to remove this large screw here for the strut. Okay. Okay, so next we have to disconnect the dampening electronics. It goes underneath here, here, and then behind this cover. So we're gonna have to remove this cover. So I have a little trim removal tool here. Okay, the connector that we're going after, it's got that little yellow sticker on it. Okay, we're disconnected now. Okay, so the next part is up on top. We're going to disconnect the air line first. Disconnect the electrical connector. Pull it out. Now we get the 3 13mm nuts. Okay, so I got a 13 and a ratchet with a little extension. And the last nut. Strut's gonna fall through. Okay, now we're just gonna pull the strut out. This is our new Arnott strut. So the new strut comes with an air connector installed already. It's got this little plastic push pin. You just got to pull this out. In the box comes 3 new nuts. These are self-locking and you're supposed to replace them. Okay, so we're just going to install the strut. And we're pretty much there. Okay, you can see that the strut is now sitting over the bushing where it's supposed to be screwed into. And put the nut on, screw the nut on loosely. Now when you tighten this nut, when you tighten the strut, this bushing here, this nut, you're not supposed to tighten this nut until you have weight on this vehicle. So I'm going to take the jack it up at the control arm here, and jack it up high enough so that it looks to be in the right position as if it were just sitting on the ground. And with enough weight on it, I'm going to go ahead and tighten it down in that position. Otherwise, you'll wear out your bushing prematurely. We're just going to thread the nuts a few threads. Could run them down a little further, a little faster, like impact. Now these are going to go on really tight. These are just going to be on 30 Newton meters. Next, we can just plug in the connector. And now to remove the old nut, pull this down a bit, take off this little ferrule, and there's the old nut off. Take out the plastic piece. Okay, so the air line goes into the new connector, and you want to get it in all the way up to the colored little yellow stripe. Okay, you tug on it, make sure it doesn't pop out. Next, we connect the knuckle to the upper control arm. if the ball joint is spinning, have a impact. This is very helpful in this situation. That's it. Okay, so now we're going to connect the connector. Make sure it's all the way in until it clicks. Next, I'm just going to put this wheel lining back in. Line up the little bolts. Okay. There's a little push pin. Goes in that little hole there. Just pushes right in. And there's two 8mm right down here. Okay, so I mentioned earlier that before you tighten this nut down for the strut to the bushing on the lower control arm, there's got to be weight on the vehicle as if it was sitting on the ground. So I've got the jack hooked up, and I jacked it up just to the point where I saw the vehicle weight coming off of the jack stand here. Okay, once you see the weight coming off of the jack stand, that's enough weight. And I'm also going to tighten these down to 30 Newton meters. 30 Newton meters. Okay, so we're all done. We've got our nuts tightened up here. We've got our air line in and secured. We've got the connector in. We got our strut bolted in right there. And this one up here is about 35 Newton meters. Just nice and snug, not crazy tight. Everything is ready to go. I'm just going to put the wheel back on, lower the car back onto the ground, turn it on, and watch it rise up. Okay, so I'm just going to start the car and watch it rise up. Okay, so the job is done. It takes about an hour, maybe two, if it's your first time. If you have all the tools, you can save yourself a lot of money. Thank you for watching. These are all the tools I use for the job. 21 heavy hammer. I use my impact wrenches. You don't need them, but it makes the job a little faster. You got a little trim removal tool. I use this to cut a zip tie. You got the 17 for the wheel lugs. You got a 13 for the nuts for the strut up on top of the strut tower. You got a 16, that's for the upper control arm nut. That one right there. And you got some, you got a 10mm and an 8mm. That's to remove these little nuts here and here.